Good evening. I call this meeting to order. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Gibbons.
Here.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Here.
Councilmember Jack
Here.
Councilmember Lizzo. Councilmember McLean.
Here.
Councilmember Reinecker.
Here.
Councilmember Schaefer.
Here.
Thank you. We will have a special presentation tonight from our Urban Forestry Commission. We're so pleased that they're here. And Chair Shane Slayton will be presenting.
Thank you so much. First, I'd like to thank my fellow Urban Forestry Commission members that I've seen in the audience here. Thank you so much for being there in solidarity with me here. To go over the to briefly summarize our annual report from last year, we gained 2 great members. Our liaison representation changed from Councilmember Letzow to Councilmember Jack and then we got a great new urban forester, Brandon Sly, who's been wonderful to work with. And in addition, we also had a very helpful summer intern. We also had several other important activities and accomplishments, but I just wanted to draw attention to the fact that we started drafting a commission manual that will serve as a reference for current and future commissioners. It contains all official city documents related to trees and tree care, as well as certain guidance documents that are developed by the commission, such as a suggested annual calendar and a list of commission member responsibilities. And as you know, one of the primary responsibilities of our commission is to report on the current state of the city's urban forest. And, put in the briefest of terms, we had 186 trees removed, street trees, but only 64 trees planted. And that discrepancy leads into the tree inventory summary report that the urban forester did. Because every 8 years, the urban forester completes an inventory of the city's street trees. And in 2024, there were 8,328 public trees. However, that is fewer trees than there were the previous 8 years by 1,654. So put another way, in only 8 years, we lost 1/6 of our city's street trees. And that doesn't count the loss of any trees on private property due to redevelopment, which we know is going on. And so of those trees that were lost, about a quarter were due to the emerald ash borer, which is an invasive beetle, which is wiping out ash trees all over the country. About 10% were due to city redevelopment, city capital projects like street development. And the remaining 2/3, though, were just that the trees were in poor condition. It was just their time. And so in the past, there was a lot less diversity of tree species planted. And so they're more susceptible to disease and to, problems hitting them at roughly the same time, which is kind of what is going on now. And our current plantings are much more diverse, so that we'll avoid that problem more in the future. So the problem is not so much so the emerald ash borer problem is only a small fraction of our lost trees. So the problem is not that too many trees are dying. The problem is that we're not replanting enough trees. And there are 2,819 vacant planting sites within the city that can hold medium and large sized trees. And there are several different aspects that could be a solution to this, one of which is a potential change to the city's municipal tree code, which would allow the urban forester to direct or direct the planting of trees within the city's rights of way. And this would give the private landowners a right to appeal first to the urban forester, and then if necessary to the Urban Forestry Commission. And then finally, tree pruning is very important. There were 22% more tree pruning events last year than in the average of the previous 4 years. And proactive maintenance pruning is more cost effective than dealing with future problems on an emergency basis. So that's the report very simply. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you happen to have any.
It sounded a little dire. Is there? We need some good news. Well,
Summer was really dry too.
yeah.
It was a drought year as well, but it's kind of been an ongoing thing, the loss of the street trees. And so I appreciate what 50 Trees program does in the city. I appreciate the urban forester and what the city is doing, but I think that there might be a suite of solutions, and we can look into that as well. report back in the future if that would be of service.
Well, if everyone in this room, there's a lot of you, would plant a tree, we'd bring it up quite a bit. There's so many questions.
Comments, just so you all know, this is for the calendar year 2024. And they've done this plus a ton more already in this current year. Mike was the chair before and transitioned to Shane. Shane was responsible primarily for the commission manual and did a great job. So the
Thank you.
committee is a very strong, active committee. Brandon's done a remarkable job in a very short period of time. And a lot of what you addressed in this are some of your big challenges that they've tackled this year, but also have many more efforts that need to be made moving this forward. So great work. It's a great commission. And we should be really proud of having a group like this in Kirkwood.
Okay, thank you.
Very much so, yes. Questions, comments?
Well, and I don't know who put the report together, Shane. This is really, I mean, even though there's some sort of, bad news, not great news, the report is fabulous.
Thank you.
Going through everything you guys have done. Excellent
Okay,
job on
great,
that.
thank you.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'd like to, if there are no additional questions, I'd like to transition to the second part of what I'm up here for, which is something I've been looking forward to. So I'd like Sebastian Kaiser to come up here at his convenience. So we're proud to announce that Sebastian Kaiser, the city horticulturist for the Parks Department, has been honored with the Advocate of the Year award by our commission. This accolade recognizes Sebastian's unwavering commitment to preserving and enhancing Kirkwood's green spaces. Sebastian provides an innovative approach to the management and preservation of Kirkwood's parks and downtown greenscapes. He has expanded the controlled burns of native plantings in the Kirkwood Park system, which helps to restore Missouri's native landscapes. Sebastian has also brought a common sense approach to planting and managing the horticultural activities in the many parks throughout Kirkwood. Through his dedication to continued education and community involvement, Sebastian ensures that Kirkwood's natural resources will be cherished by residents for generations to come. So please join me in congratulating Sebastian on this well-deserved recognition.
Thank you very much, everyone. I really appreciate this honor. I'm a little speechless because it's so beautiful. Kirkwood has become a home away from home for me. And I'm really proud to serve this community. And I love coming to work every day, seeing the smiling faces of everyone. And obviously the trees. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sebastian. Thank you. At this time, the council will recess to conduct a public hearing regarding updates to the city's stormwater ordinance as contained in the Municipal Code, Chapter 5, Article 7, Infill Development Stormwater Management, and updates to the city's stormwater manual. Ms. Graves, do you wish to enter exhibits into the record?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I do. Exhibit 1 is an affidavit of publication showing that an ad was placed in the St. Louis County on September 12th, 2025. Exhibit 2 is an affidavit of publication showing that the ad was placed in the Webster Kirkwood Times on September 12th, 2025. Exhibit 3 is a memorandum from HR Green. Exhibit 4 is a memorandum from the Assistant City Engineer dated September 29th, 2025. And Exhibit 5 is the Kirkwood Code of Ordinances. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Hawes, who will present this to the council?
That will be Assistant City Engineer Jennifer Brown. That'll be Assistant Engineer Jennifer Brown.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As mentioned, I'm presenting on the proposed updates to the city's stormwater ordinance and design manual. And these ordinances are based off the HR Green City Stormwater Master Plan, Stormwater Code Review Memo, and staff recommendations. All right. You can go to the next one. So, the ordinance updates that we're proposing and recommended by HR Green first one is to lower the threshold for requiring stormwater mitigation from 1,000 square feet to 500 square feet, sorry. The maximum impervious coverage on a lot, to cap that at 55%. New home basements and basement extension depths to be no deeper than the existing basement elevation unless supported by a geotechnical report indicating the groundwater is 2 feet below proposed basement finished floor elevation. In lieu of that, they could use the groundwater map that was provided in the memo from HR Green. We also recommend that the overflow of a site's BMP for sump pump discharge to connect to the public MST storm sewer system. If there's an inlet in the front or back of the property, as long as MST allows that, that would be a MST submittal. Sump pump discharge not to go into stormwater BMPs. Stormwater permit fund refund, stormwater permit fee refund, deposited for stormwater BMPs to be forfeited if they don't call in their last or have their last inspection within a year of a previous inspection. Next page. Thank you. The manual updates are different than what I have here. Require all impervious areas over 25% to require treatment unless the total of the site is lowered to 25% overall. Trees used for stormwater mitigation will be included in the maintenance agreement and recorded in the city's stormwater GIS system. If any of these identified trees for stormwater mitigation dies or is removed for any reason, they must be replaced with 2 2-inch caliber trees. For each identified tree lost, replacement trees must be the same size, class, or greater than the identified tree, than the tree that was removed. It was a small tree. You can do small. If it was large, it has to be a large from the tree manual. The other thing is distance between BMPs. That's going to be decreased. It's going to be an equation based off of the one-to-one zone influence for the depth of the BMP plus 10 feet. Some examples there. If it's a 5-foot depth, that's 10 foot plus 10 foot, so it'd be 20 feet. Trees used for stormwater mitigation credit cannot have any portion of their critical and structural root zones impacted by construction activities. Requiring a Grady permit for all flat work or other added site impervious area not under a building permit. Side yards must be graded to drain to the front or back of the property. Thank you.
Okay, you might as well stay there. I have a feeling we'll have some questions.
I'm sure.
The first one, I went to a stormwater discussion that was metropolitan wide. And there are a lot of communities that have a much lower threshold than we are talking about at 500 square feet. So Crestwood and Brentwood are 200, Ladue and Olivet at 400. U City and Webster at 100. So we were at 1,000. We're really quite far from there. The stormwater permit fee to be refunded if there is the inspection, what is the cost of that?
$1,000.
And other questions?
I will start.
Okay.
Since everybody's being so shy. Just, the overall picture is that we've really outgrown our ability to manage our stormwater runoff over the years of development. And so this is really an effort for us to try to catch up a little bit while we're doing other types of work to increase our ability to manage the stormwater. So kind of when you're in a hole trying to get yourself out, you have to quit digging. And hopefully these ordinances will help us kind of catch our breath. And it's not a one size fits all process. The number 3 that you talk about, the basement depths and,
Mhm.
new build really does address, there's pockets on these maps that show, the stormwater, the water tables 1 to 3 feet, it's really serious flooding risk, but there may be other parts that doesn't have it. And so there is kind of some options, it's not everybody's treated the same, but we recognize there are parts of town that we might be able to do something a little bit different. So what I like is that it's a recognition of the stormwater problem across the community. Some areas are worse than others. I know years ago we had some moratoriums on high density, bigger builds on lots and those kind of things. I think as we struggle and grapple with this issue, again, we need to begin to look at how we recognize our biggest risk, what we can do to kind of catch up with our ability to manage it before we just kind of turn things loose. So, again, I appreciate y'all's work and again, giving us some options to begin to look at so that we can better manage a system we've outgrown
Mhm.
due to the development. 100 years ago, we didn't have quite the same problem. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilmember McLean.
One of the more controversial measures in this, I think, from hearing from some home builders, is the maximum impervious lot coverage of 55%.
Mhm.
The effect that's going to have on construction on smaller lots, the ability to build pools, outside living areas, things like that. What do other municipalities have on that? Do you know?
I don't know. I can say that when they did this study, there's maybe 1% of the homes that are currently above that 55% in the city of Kirkwood. And in the year, just over a year that I've been in the city, I've only encountered one house development or permit that was close to that 55%.
This is having no effect then, really.
Currently, I don't see much of an effect, honestly.
Mayor.
Yes.
Jennifer,
Councilmember.
thanks for this. If we did all these things you're recommending, plus all the other ordinances we have, would we solve the stormwater issue in Kirkwood?
No, it's not necessarily a problem to solve, it's a problem to manage because there's, any day can be, a storm event worse than the day before. It's just the best management practice. It's an effort to try to deal with it. And it's, yeah, it's not a problem to solve, it's just something to mitigate.
Think we mitigate it by 10%?
I don't, it's hard to say percentage wise. But I mean, I feel that this would definitely make a difference, with, with everything in the city, people, sump pumps are a problem. Properties draining on neighbors' property because they, slope it 3 to 1 to the property line. So I feel that these will make a difference.
Well, obviously, I'm asking you rhetorical questions. The reason I am is because it seems like we just keep adding on top of these ordinances for builders and for developers. And maybe we need to step back and kind of, take a new look at
Yeah.
this thing.
My intent was to look at the stormwater ordinance and the manual and try to come up with some up-to-date, thorough recommendations that make sound sense, that would hopefully be in place for the next 3, 4, 5 years, and not be constantly updating things, is what my intent is.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Councilmember Schaefer.
Is this also including any kind of bump out additions? We're going to do all these calculations for that too. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so somebody that wants to just put a ADU onto their house or something like that, is that going to also drive all of this as well?
Yeah, currently they have to adhere to the stormwater ordinances and stuff, and so, yeah, they'll have the same.
Okay, so that could affect that. That's why I'm asking.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Lutzer.
Right, so to be clear, maximum impervious coverage on a lot shall be 55%. Anything over that, you're going to be required to put in stormwater best management practices.
No, it's
BSPs.
not allowed.
So,
If you had, let's say you had a big drive and a house and you wanted to install a pool and your house was over 55%, you would have to lose some impervious area in order to.
so there's no adding trees or putting in a pit for stormwater detention and all that kind of stuff. This
That's-
is,
That's kind of separate.
Mhm.
You know, you still have to do your stormwater mitigation, even if you're under 55%, because if you're over 25%.
okay.
So this is just setting a cap on the maximum allowed impervious area.
Okay. Well, I'm just wondering, there might be a lot of lots that would have to be grandfathered in here that
Like,
possibly
I think
some
it said like
R4s that are,
less than 1%.
okay. All right. So, I mean, I think it is clear, and as the mayor mentioned, that other cities are much more strict with their stormwater requirements, that stormwater mitigation BMPs have to be installed when you even increase impervious pavement by less than what the proposed 500 square feet. So we've also got MSD that is now closely looking at how much impervious coverage there are on lots, and everybody probably already noticed that their sewer bill has gone up because they're calculating impervious pavement because of all of this, because of Project Clear and water quality and an issue with just stormwater causing flooding and all that kind of stuff. There's Deer Creek Watershed Alliance that works with homeowners on its own to help homeowners do DIY projects of rain gardens, rainscaping. And MSD also has on their website a whole thing where residents within certain problematic watersheds can possibly qualify for grants. There's small grants, there's also large grants. So this is an acknowledged problem across the region. As in Kirkwood, we've got more infill, more impervious coverage, and we've also had more, weather events that have really exacerbated the problem. So it's kind of all hands on deck, and we need to approach this in a comprehensive manner. So thank you for working on this, Jennifer.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks.
We will now move into public comments. David, has anyone filled out a card to speak regarding this proposal?
Yes, Mayor, there are a few requests for comment this evening. The first being Lauren Gramlich.
There, okay. Good evening. I've got a few comments. I've got 3 minutes. Is that correct? When does that start?
No, in a public hearing, I'd hate to tell you this, you can go as long as you want.
But it was either that or talk really, really fast. So maybe I'll speak at an appropriate cadence then. I will just say is, I don't represent a builder. I'm not in the builder category. I'm a resident. So that's my voice and my
Thank you. And
perspective.
what is your address?
Well, that's complicated. I
Oh.
live at 1015 North Clay. But last year, some of the folks can attest, I procured 209 Wilson, which was a problem spot for the city of Kirkwood. It's just not clear what the city is actually considering here. I feel like I bought this property last year, 209 Wilson. And with the changes that the engineer has identified, I can't tell if I can actually build the house I want to build or not. With the 55% constraint, I feel like the city hasn't identified enough of what, enough of what definition needs to be there. So I'd really like to see an example from the city about like, if you have a lot size that is small, 50, small is relative, 50 by 150 feet. Can you build a house there? And can you build a house that can include a family? And so that's kind of the example I'd like the city to consider is, can you actually put families on property in Kirkwood? One of the things that was in the report talked about town and country as one of the examples that the report gave. And I feel like in town and country, the average lot size is like 22,000 square feet. In the city of Kirkwood, I think it's roughly 9,900 square feet. So I feel like the report gave a sample size of one, town and country, but does it adequately consider property sizes that are really like Kirkwood? Because I'm worried that the size of the homes, I know some people have emotional reaction to home sizes, but can you still build a house that can fit a family? So that's kind of my perspective there. And that's when you ask the question about the 55%, I'm nervous about that because I don't think the city has communicated enough about what that means and provided enough examples to residents. One of the questions I have in particular is about basement sizing. If you look at the watershed and the language that was up here just a minute ago, it talked about existing basement depth. Well, if there isn't a basement, what do you use to compare? I feel like there's not enough communication to residents about what that means. So I bought a lot, or I bought actually a property with a house. I tore the house down because I could not save it, even though that was my first choice. I don't know, based on what the guidance that's been given, what size basement, if any, I can build, because the watershed and the property I bought is 1 to 3 feet. So if that's the case, and I have to build 2 feet, my basement has to be 2 feet above the watershed, then I can't put a basement in. This is very confusing. So I feel like the city needs to provide a little bit more guidance and communication and really data. I feel like we don't have enough data to understand what the impacts of this could be. I guess the last thing I actually want to highlight too is just on the MSD comment you made. MSD actually just increased yesterday the amount and the size of the grants that they're willing to give residents by 25%, which is amazing. I'm worried, though, that with some of the requirements that the city is going to impose, that people may not actually be able to afford doing the grants, because the way the grants are structured is you have to apply, put plans in place, and you get reimbursed. So somebody may not be able to actually afford what MSD is trying to do because of the restrictions that Kirkwood is going to put in place. And I guess finally, Prop T came in place last year by residents. Yay, sidewalks, Jonathan, call it there. But I feel like when we add sidewalks now, which is going to be phenomenal for this community, how does that play into this, in this equation? So if you have a 50 by 150 lot size, you're now going to get sidewalks, which you are thrilled to have. Are you not going to be able to build the home that you want because you've got an additional impervious structure, especially if you have a very wide lot, right? Like how the lot is structured. Maybe you can't build the house you want and you can't put the family in there and you can't go to ballet. So I just want to like sprinkle that out there as like a consideration. Have we thought about this? Because I think that the city is looking at it from, and I'm definitely over 3 and I'll stop shortly, but just, I feel like there's a lot of conversation about builders, but I think we need to be thinking about residents. Like that's the phrase that I'd like everyone to consider is like, yes, there's a lot of builders and I'm sure we'll hear from quite a few of them, but like, what's the impact to the residents? And so thank you for your time.
Thank you for the sprinkle.
Jared Keplinger.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for letting us be here tonight. My name is Jared Keplinger. I am a Kirkwood resident. I also am in the building business. So, and I'm actually speaking personally. I live at 511 South Geyer Road, and I was reviewing the storm management, which we deal with a lot. And just to give you a real world scenario, I'm about to replace my driveway. And I would like to expand my driveway, but in order to do so, I would need to pull out impervious surface so that I don't have to go through the stormwater mitigation, which I would no longer be allowed to do. Real world numbers, I need a topography survey. That's $2,000 to $3,000 for my lot. I need an engineer to sign and stamp my drawings. That's $3,000 to $4,000. Dry wells start about 8,000 to 12,000 and beyond. And then I need to run all the subsurface to those dry well locations. Generally speaking, you're gonna run an average cost of about $16,000 to $25,000. My driveway costs about $16,000 to $25,000. So that's one example where now you've just doubled the cost of my construction, and my current lot has zero water issues whatsoever. I do have a sump pump. I do have a 6-foot basement below grade, and it runs every so often. So why am I being penalized for that? Number two to consider is if you get rid of the credit, if somebody wants to replace a front porch, there are plenty of houses in the Kirkwood city that are well over the 25% minimum coverage right now. We deal with a lot of clients that if they add 1 square foot, they are retroactively having to do the stormwater mitigation. So something to consider. I would tell you all not to approve these changes and to have further discussions on them. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gwen Wallman.
Gwen Wallman, 1002 West Adams. Good evening, and thank you to City Council, staff, and consultants for putting so much time and careful consideration into these new vitally important stormwater changes. I'm excited about changes that promise significant protections for our city and property owners. A critic of the proposed plan said, quote, "The trade-off to be aware of is that requiring people to mitigate the runoff of rainwater that falls on their property costs money, which makes Kirkwood a more expensive place to live," unquote. I was so flabbergasted I had to read that line twice. There's a price to be paid for runoff from new development, no matter who pays for it. Like rainwater itself, responsibility for it doesn't go away if it isn't addressed on site. Costs of mitigation are just shifted to those who didn't create the problems, and in all too many cases are victimized by them. As such, I absolutely support the proposed requirement for mitigation and grading permits to be lowered to 500 square feet. And I didn't know that so many cities had a much, much lower threshold, or I would be recommending that. And a maximum coverage of 55% impervious surfacing. It would seem obvious that all impervious surfaces should count to the total, including driveways, patios, additions, accessory structures, etc., as they all displace runoff. I also applaud recognition that directing stormwater to inlets does not make it go away, just shifts water downstream, gathering volume and velocity from other sources and causing dangerous and destructive off-site flooding. You are rightly aware of the responsible thing to do, which is to mitigate stormwater on site. As new residential construction is proposed for city approval, I'd also like to see city signs go up in the neighborhood that says stormwater matters, just as we have zoning matters signs. As you may remember from the case of an ADU proposed for Lark Avenue, neighbors knew the locations of existing runoff problems better than anyone, and their information led to effective mitigation as well as protection of their own properties. Hopefully, a fringe benefit of the new regulations may be preservation of our trees, yards, and green spaces. These amenities do dual duty by making our city a beautiful place to live while absorbing rainwater like large natural sponges. I'm proud to live in a town that takes responsibility for its impacts and rejects the all too common approach of flood thy neighbor. Thank you for a plan to right this ship.
Thank you.
Daniel Stauder.
Hello, yes, Daniel Stouter. I am a Kirkwood resident also for, I don't know, since mid-80s, I think. I'm also an architect. I do a number of projects for private residents. I also do some projects for a number of the builders you'd see here tonight. I don't want to spend the time talking about all the logistics of this. I think plenty of other people in the room are gonna do that, so I just wanted to offer my opinion. I've heard some people say, no, it's these builders. They just want to make a buck. They want to put the biggest house they can on here. There's pretty few spec homes that are done. So many of them are done for the clients, for the residents of Kirkwood, and that's who's driving this. They want what they want. They're moving into this community because they want this kind of a lot. They may not need a huge lot, but they want a house for their 3 kids and whatnot. So I hope you'll consider that it's not just builders making a buck. I know a lot of them are residents too, just like me. I've built a few houses in Kirkwood also, been on planning and zoning for 8 years. So I've seen this from the different sides of the fence, as an architect, as a builder, as a resident, as a parent. So I just hope you'll consider what they're saying and not think, oh, they're just trying to build more and get more. I'll leave it at that.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Jack Warden.
I'd like to thank you all for being here. My comments are really about storm drains on the roadways and job site retention of the dirt and soils that wash down. I live at 995 Box Elder Drive. I've got almost an acre of ground on my house. The storm drains come from Merrimack Community College, which we all know is going through a massive overhaul right now. They've got bare dirt everywhere. And all of the dirt comes down the storm drains, goes into the creek. I am at the headwaters of Kirkwood Creek. The college itself and its contractors have been responsible for several fish kills in the creek. Anytime it rains, it can rain a 1/4 inch of rain. The creek water goes to 0 visibility. It's mud. In the creek there, I have fish, I've got minnows, I've got green sun perch in there. There's snapping turtles in there. There are mink, look like little ferrets, you know. Deer, raccoons, red fox, all that hang out in my backyard area. And with this runoff, it's made the creek undesirable to be around. It's heartbreaking to go back there after a rain and see all of the mud, silt fences washed down from Merrimack Community College projects into the creek, things like that. And along those lines also, we had, the college had discharged their pool water into the storm drains. The chlorinated water from the pools went down into the creek, killed all the fish. So I would like for you to take into account all of the swimming pools we have here in town now and do some sort of an ordinance or a fee and an inspection for the pools to be drained. It can simply be done by adding dechlorinator to the pools and then discharging. They can discharge into the stormwater drains after they're dechlorinated. But people are dumping straight pool water into the stormwater drains, and it wreaks havoc on the wildlife. And I'm just here as an advocate of wildlife and stuff, and would like to see something addressed with that. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Shane Staton.
Hello again. I'm coming to you before you now as a private citizen from 1020 Bernice Avenue, but I'm still going to talk about trees. So based on the presentation we saw, the one aspect was seen was if a tree for preservation was somehow removed, then it would be replaced by a new tree. And I also come before you as a person who has training as an environmental scientist, but I don't think you need a lot of training to come to the conclusions I'm going to talk to, that from stormwater purposes, the value of an existing tree is number one, that it draws up water from the ground through transpiration, but then it also intercepts rainwater through its, the canopy and leaves, and that water evaporates rather than necessarily falling to the ground. And clearly, a big mature tree is going to intercept and transpire more water than a new tree. So I think I would suggest a 1-to-1 ratio of a trade of an existing tree to a new tree, it would not be adequate. And then also in terms of the $1,000 penalty if a tree that to be preserved was accidentally damaged and would need to be removed during the project, that's kind of just a cost of business for it to put in one new tree. That's not enough of a penalty, in my humble opinion, to discourage the damaging of an existing tree. So the ultimate amount would be to be decided by you, but something in the realm of $10,000 or so would be reasonable in my opinion. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rob Griffith.
Hi, my name is Rob Griffith. I live at 410 Central Place, and I've lived on Central Place since 1984. So initially, when I came up here, I was going to just tell you how bad these new stormwater ordinances was. All the rules, terrible, terrible. But something happened between talking to Jennifer Brown after the work session and before this started, and she clarified some of the things. And so my point switched from that to now. I wish that we could have some of this information disseminated sooner than the night of the meeting. So we could have time to look it over, review it, talk to her, talk to Rick, whoever, and have some input. I know years past, there seemed to be a lot more input from builders, developers, contractors, citizens. And I would encourage that to happen again. I think that helped a lot in the past. The thing that bothered me with this one is the depth of the basements being regulated in certain areas, like redlining. And I would caution you on that. I mean, I own a bunch of houses in Kirkwood, and so I don't even know the value impact that that's going to have, because if someone can't use that property down the road and build a house with a full basement, then they're not going to want to buy it. And how many people are going to be affected by that over the county? And let me look here. That's it. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
David Molnar.
Hello, I'm Dave Molnar, the owner of Molnar Homes. I grew up here, parents still live here, have property currently in Kirkwood. There's a lot of things that come to mind when I see this rule, and some of it I can understand where we're coming from, but my biggest problem is how we got here. Before COVID, we had a big meeting here about changing our building codes, and the city of Kirkwood hired an independent firm to put together what they felt was the best way to handle our building zone. And we all came here once again and had discussions, and most of that did not pass. So I thought after that, we learned that maybe a collaborative effort, because when you hire one person, their view is just one thing, right? How do we make the stormwater better? But they're not talking to homeowners, business owners, contractors, anybody, right? So they're only going to it with one view. And I feel like what happened here was once again done behind closed doors, not a collaborative effort. I know I'm getting dirty looks behind me, but I feel like Kirkwood has to do a much better job with being much more open and collaborative in how we are addressing these situations. And I agree with a lot of the homeowners that have concerns, but like what you just said earlier, sir, is that we don't even know if all these changes are going to have a more positive effect than a negative effect. That whole thing about the basements is basically almost every realtor in Kirkwood's going to need to have those maps, because they're going to need to show those clients, because it's not just about building homes. It's about if I buy a nice ranch and I wanted to do an addition with a basement, I can't do that, right? Because of maybe the water table. So there's so many different things that we don't know that maybe it wasn't thought of because they're not builders that or contractors. So I really caution you to make sure that we approach this in a much more collaborative way. You know, I just finished a home. I just want you to know I planted 6 trees. So I'm helping with that number that went down. And, you know, the last home I just built, we had 4 of these pits in the backyard, and I've been monitoring it. And I feel they're actually performing quite well. I haven't had any complaints from the neighbors behind me or downstream. So they are affected to some degree. Obviously, when we have a major storm event, no matter what we do, you just can't handle it, right? I mean, we have to be realistic on that. At one point, when we first started building, we were allowed to take some of these downspouts out to the curb and do curb cuts, which would help mitigate some of the issue for our neighbors, right? Because that's essentially is what's happening in our downtown area, right? These big giant buildings that are being allowed, 60-unit apartment complexes that are somehow not the center of our issue tonight, which I think our houses at least have grass in them, right? But if at Lindbergh and Adams we're building a 60-unit apartment building, the people I talk in Kirkwood are much more upset about that because that's adding a lot of more stress on our infrastructure, right? We're Kirkwood, we're not Clayton, and none of us want to be Clayton. That's why all these people are coming here. And so I think that that's off subject a little, but it's also a concern that I have is those buildings are collecting all that same stormwater that we have, right? They're collecting them in their basements, but are these commercial jobs, are they allowed to go below that water table depth? And if so, where's all that water going? They're dumping it right into the storm system, right? So I think we have to think a little bit about that and are we just being the ones that are going after because of the big houses, but we also have, I think, a commercial issue as well. I think that's all I've got to say. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Mann.
Mayor, City Council, Michael Mon Custom Homes and Renovations, also a Kirkwood resident. So I think there's quite a few unintended consequences here, guys, but we'll touch base on a few. So 55% cap on impervious lot coverage. While intended to reduce runoff, this change would have far-reaching negative impacts on our community, including elimination of pools, patios, outdoor living spaces, forcing front entry car garages, significant loss to value of smaller lots, which would no longer support functional homes under modern expectations, or appraisals assigned with current construction cost. Erosion of homeowner retirement assets, particularly for those of seniors, because the equity is the core part of their long-term financial planning. Kirkwood's stormwater system is largely owned and maintained by MSD. The master plan notes the capacity and constraints at the multiple locations shows that many of the identified MSD projects in Kirkwood are not yet funded or scheduled, underscoring a need for infrastructure solutions along with any private rules and regulations. The impervious cap discussion should be weighed against any infrastructure realities and property rights impact before adoption. Regionally, other communities have tackled flooding through targeted public investment. Example, Mayor Sean Flower, Eureka, advanced major measures including transferable water sewer utilities to Missouri American Water and pursuing strategic flood walls to mitigate chronic flood risk and fund upgraded rather than relying primarily on private lot restrictions. While we support stormwater management, shifting the burden primarily into homeowners, developers, and home builders with a blanketed 55 impervious cap without a parallel funded plan does not solve the root cause. The city's own master plan shows that the stormwater management network constraints and the backlog of unfunded projects, public-sided infrastructure and investment in MSD coordinated must be part of the solution, in tandem with the sensible site levels of all these BMPs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tracy Winters.
Good evening. My name is Tracy Winters. I work for Agape Construction. I take care of almost all the permitting of our projects. We primarily do small residential additions, renovations. Occasionally, we will do a new home. But many of our projects are for longtime residents, sometimes in smaller homes, who have porches, back porches built in the 50s, the 60s that are deteriorating. And we get a lot of calls in to, remove and replace. And so my concern is, I would just like to see some common sense when adopting some of these rules for those residents, because they just want to improve what they have. They're not looking to build a 3,000 square foot home. They're just looking to improve what they have. And many of these proposed rules would, as Jared said, start with a $15,000 to $20,000 cost from the get-go. If they fall into these categories, which many of them would, we tend to use the net zero, what we call it the net zero rule, to where if you are removing a porch of 100 square feet and we put back a porch of 100 square feet, that is a net zero. Currently, we do not need to mitigate any stormwater, no matter the formation of the lot or how big, the impervious area is. So we rely on that rule quite a bit for these smaller projects. And I would just hate to see, those type of residents to be burdened with the cost of some of these rules. I would just really like to enforce that some common sense be implemented.
Thank you.
Kevin O'Brien.
I just want, I'm with Agape Construction. I lived in Kirkwood for 20 years, but have since moved away to be with family in Lake St. Louis. I still have a heart for Kirkwood. I love this area. Just to clarify a little bit with what Tracy said, that when we do a project, let's say someone wants to convert a concrete patio to a deck or put a new roof on their porch, it requires a permit, and the permit under this scenario is going to trigger best management practices. It's going to require we to put in a dry well, do the engineering, do the topos. It's going to be a $20,000 cost on top of the cost of the remodel. So it's just to clarify what Tracy said, what she said was spot on. We're doubling the cost unnecessarily. With regard to the depth of basements, I built a house at 1051 Barberry, which is at the bottom of a Ponca Trail, which is basically a flood. Every time it rained, it was just came over this wall and just drenched the yard. But I solved that problem not by eliminating the basement, but by waterproofing the basement. I upgraded the waterproofing to a rubberized system. I had zero water. So I don't think it's wise to just outlaw basements altogether. I would simply improve the waterproofing techniques. With regard to the 55% impervious, I mean, I would venture to say that it's more than 1%. I would venture to say it's closer to 25 or 30% of the lots or have that impervious. And you're basically going to outlaw side entry garages, rear entry garages, detached garages. It's going to be required. If this law is implemented, you're going to mandate all front entry garages, which is going to limit the architectural diversity of Kirkwood. It's going to be disastrous, I think so. Thank you.
Thank you.
This next one, sorry, it's a little smudged. So sorry if I butcher it. Daniel Early.
Good to see everyone again. Just for some background here and who I am, my name is Daniel Erlinger. I live at 239 West Woodbine. I had previously met with Liz and Russell, as well as Chris Kruger, the City Director of Public Engineering. I might have had that title wrong. And I had previously met with them because back over a year ago, I believe, I was experiencing some issues that was leading to flooding on our street and into my yard. And I believed at that time it was tied into construction runoff and I was upset. And so I went on the news and I, try to raise some awareness of this problem. And so I met with Liz and I met with Russell and, and I continued to have discussions then later on with both with the builder and with one of the city engineers regarding the property next to mine. And, when I look to the, some of the changes that are proposed in the ordinance, I think it's possibly related to the property next to mine, but I'm not quite sure. But what happened here was it was not just stormwater runoff. It was that they hit a underground spring next to my house. And so this has continued to flow onto my property and has led to problems with the neighbor who purchased the house from the developer. And so I actively engaged myself during this time into the permitting and approval process that existed then and tried to raise awareness because when I went to Liz and Russell and the team, my thought was that it was stormwater. I became very aware that as nothing had rained and water is still flowing, that something was going on. And so, where this led was I did raise awareness to the city engineers and they did continue to approve the property, knowing that this issue existed. They said that. So what I did in order to demonstrate what happened was I dug a test well next to my property, right at the property line between mine and the others. And so a test well is basically, I just dug a pit. But what it is I went down several feet and then I've gauged how long it would take for water to fill it up. It filled up to the surface because water was continuously flowing off this property. And so there may be some questions into what happened in regards to why their BMP site was empty when they went to go approve it. But I could demonstrate that next to mine that the water table or water was at this level. And so it made no sense that their BMP site would be empty at this time. And so I asked for a rationale for why this could occur. And the engineer who was there said he didn't know. They continued to approve the property. And what this has led to is I am now $36,000 in remediation just to shore up my wall. I have not yet met the end of that. I have been in a deposition regarding this property that took 8 hours of my time. And the part of the reason is probably working in the benefit of my neighbor who has now come to alignment with me on my view of what happened, is that I spent time documenting this property from before it was torn down. And it required a lot of effort. It was roughly 3.2 gigabytes of data pictures and videos that I had to do to kind of prove to them where these problems occurred. And that's a heavy burden. But through my examinations, and something that I question here in our stormwater policy is that I came to some realizations of why our policy was written that way, or our manual was written that way, where some of the sources of it was, which includes the Maryland Stormwater BMP manual. And something that's missing that I think needs to be called out that has led to some other problems is that we have a silty clay loam soil. And so typically when you experience a soil type like that, you have very low infiltration rates. And so the ability of a BMP site on the property to actually manage that water is basically null. They don't drain. And so that was one of the findings that we had with the property next to mine in their BMP site is it was always full. So when they have so once they hit this underground spring, which is basically being pumped out through his property through his sump pump and then flowing onto mine, there is nowhere for the water to drain at any point in time. So anytime it rains, we basically have flash flooding through my property and his. And he has experienced, I don't know the scope of the expenses of his damages, but what I've been informed is that he cannot, if he were to sell his home, they would not be able to get an occupancy permit until this is remediated. So this damage has actually grown to a much larger scope than what it was. And so if we had put $1,000 to this, it doesn't come close to managing the scope of the damages across both properties. The $1 million insurance policy is not adequate to cover the scope of the damages across the two properties. I've seen that there is in the plans, it was identified as a problem area that they look to build a storm drain potentially running up to that property and maybe they could connect into it. But you still have to get the water out from around that property and then into the storm drain, which is an unknown expense. And so where they've landed is that they have, the other parties involved between the developer and all of them and my neighbor are probably going to go into mediation around this. But the challenge that they face is it's probably several hundreds of thousands of dollars to change this so that either the property could be sold and he can move on with his life, or they can fix it and live there. But until that is done, I cannot fix my yard. And so I've lost the use of my yard during this time since then. And when I've gone and requested, so I have a drainage system in place. I have another BMP. It is always full of water. So every time I'm pumping water out, it just sits on the surface or rolls across the surface of my property. I can't fix the grading of my yard to properly divert water away from it because of the level of saturation. So, and basically I'm stuck and they're stuck and nobody is able to basically front the costs, or nobody is willing to front the costs of what the remediation would be on the other property. And I find that to be a challenge. But what I would request is that when we look at our stormwater manual, something that I did not see addressed was that we currently provide a provision so that if you do not do soil infiltration testing on your property, you're allowed to make an assumption that you have a 0.05-inch infiltration rate, which allows you to still build based on the current specifications of the BMP sites to oversize them by 10% or 150%, some number, and think that will provide adequate drainage. But because these don't drain, they're always filled with water. We experience rainy periods. While all your rain in the year might not come at one point in time, they often come in streaks. And when those are filled, it leads to exacerbated runoff problems. And so these types of BMP sites, as you would see if you were to examine other municipalities, stormwater management plans, you would find that these types of BMP sites are typically not allowed on infiltration rates as low as the soil type that we have here. The challenge that we face, though, is that if you do not allow these types of BMP sites, then what are developers allowed to do to still build on the properties? Because it will become very, very challenging for them to meet the needs of the BMP sites and the areas required with the current types available to them without basically filtering the water, because if you look to the original intent of a stormwater management plan, a lot of it ties back to due to the EPA. And what we're trying to do is reduce the amount of surface runoff pollutants that enter into our waterways. And so that was the scope of what these were initially meant to do, not prevent damage to your neighbor's property, but we tried to lump them in. And I think that was a good intent, and it's something that we're trying to resolve now. But we are going to be very, very limited in our ability to make changes of this if we don't examine probably the system as a whole. And so what we lack probably is some type of filtration of our water system before it enters into our waterways, which then doesn't allow us to basically connect water and surface runoff through our storm water systems. And so therefore, we end up with a mixed set of practices that probably don't actually result in the benefit of anyone involved. So adding more BMP sites, as you see here, that don't have good infiltration rates will probably not solve the problem for most of the people. And it's just as some of the builders who probably are in opposition to where my point of view is on here said, it probably is not going to help. And so I think we need to probably take into consideration what other options are available to Kirkwood to manage this type of overflow and water runoff, and probably make some examinations of, if we're not prepared, what do we need to do to not exacerbate the problem any further? Because probably on-site individual measures where the homeowner or the developer or the builder is required to manage the financials of trying to manage this to no effect of the neighbors or of the stormwater runoff of the system is probably not the best outcome we're looking to achieve here. So I just wanted to probably enter into the record that that I've experienced these damages, but that we probably also need to examine how to manage this as a whole, probably directly confront the soil type of our area and what type of BMP sites are suitable for that type, and try to force ourselves to be a little bit more thoughtful in how we try to address the stormwater so we don't actually exacerbate the issue, because that has been the outcome I've seen, is that the stormwater, the BMP sites that they put in actually exacerbate the surface water runoff and the flooding onto my property. And so I don't think they're effective in that way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor and council, there are no additional requests for comment on this public hearing.
Are there any other comments from council or questions?
Can I just ask Jennifer, there were public sessions on the stormwater work, wasn't there, with the consultant
Yes, there was. There was an open house last year.
last year? And there was one for residents. Did you have two of them?
Yes, we had two, one for residents and one for businesses.
Okay.
Mhm.
I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank
Anything
you.
else? Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Hearing no further discussion, this public hearing is now closed. Council will consider this at a later date. All right, now we are moving into public comments.
Public comments, 3-minute limit per person. The public comments portion of the meeting is an opportunity for the city council to listen to comments from citizens. It is not a question and answer session, and the city council will not respond to comments or answer questions during this period. The mayor may refer any matter brought up to the city council to the chief administrative officer or city clerk if action is needed.
Thank you. David, has anyone filled out a comment card who wishes to make a public comment?
Mayor and council, there are some requests for comment this evening. The first is Victoria Bader.
Hi, I'm Victoria Bader, and I am a resident of Kirkwood. I received, this is about the development on Adams and Kirkwood Road. So I received pictures of the new elevations for the building at Kirkwood Road and Adams. So I am here to discuss the proposed site. I read someplace in an email, someone called me a NIMBY last week, but they either weren't listening or they didn't understand me. Just because you oppose an ugly building doesn't make you a naysayer or a not in my backyard person. Progress is great when it's done correctly. And while I appreciate that the architect for the company is willing to work with the city council, I'm not sure that he understood the assignment based on the new drawings that I saw. In my opinion, it still kind of looks like a nondescript box, but with a different facade. Citizens of Kirkwood are looking for something that fits in with our historic downtown, not just a cut and paste monolithic idea that seemingly every builder uses for today's client. In truth, a box is the most economical way for a builder to maximize his profits. But when they leave and go on to a different building site to build the same cube somewhere else, they leave behind their nondescript building. They don't have to live with it. They don't have to look at it. And they don't have to live with the consequences of an angry citizenry complaining to their city council members. The James. If I were a teacher or perhaps an architectural professor, I would hand the paper back to my student, in this case, the people who read the buildings, and suggest that I thought quite a lot of their ideas were copying. I would give my student another chance to get it right, to come up with something new, not just the exact same building that they submitted before, just with a different color brick glued to it. I am suggesting that the approach for the city council tonight is to hand this back to the student and ask them to resubmit later. A friend of mine who is in favor of building yet another high-rise, and in my opinion, boring cubist East German-style cell block building in Kirkwood, well, she told me that if I didn't have a suggestion for what it should look like, then I shouldn't be complaining at all. So that's fair. So I actually emailed some people that I have had contact with before, but I didn't email it until 4 o'clock this afternoon. So I did bring pictures. So that's all I have to say. That was my idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tom Petrak?
Thank you for trying. It's Tom Tachek. I'm a 30-year resident of Kirkwood, and I'm also here representing the Kirkwood for Everyone group. I want to talk about the 300 North Kirkwood project. I mean, our group keeps hearing from residents more and more about how expensive it is becoming to live in Kirkwood, both the rent and the housing. And every day we're seeing more and more of our starter homes disappear. Affordable housing is a major issue for potential residents as well as current residents who want to stay in Kirkwood and potentially downsize. We're very much in favor of this project. We know these apartments will not be cheap, so are they affordable? Probably not in our definition of affordable, but the more rental units we have, it gives our residents pressure and it leverages down and will hopefully at least keep our rents lower. 60 additional units in Kirkwood are desperately needed. The amount of needed housing is real. My understanding is the James is full. In fact, they have a waiting list. I was in the Central West End last night and on the Bolivar area, and I was shocked to see many very nice large apartment buildings that are now boarded up due to the tornado. There's a dramatic shortage of rental in this area. And it's people who want to live in Kirkwood and cannot afford $1 million mortgage. What options do they have? If they are a family who wants to downsize, we need more apartments. We need more rental. We just need more housing stock in our area, and I encourage you to support it.
Thank you.
Alan Hopeful?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Alan Hopeful, a current Vice President of the Kirkwood Park Board, and I just had some words to recommend some wordsmithing on the ordinance on the acquisition of
or addition of Possum Valley or Possum Woods to Emmenegger Nature Park. The problem is that the ordinance is written and refers to Emmenegger Park over and over again. The actual name of the park is Emmenegger Nature Park. If you look at the Kirkwood's Code of City Ordinances, it's listed, where it lists the name of the park, it's Emmenegger Nature Park. If you look at the sign at the beginning, at the entrance of Emmenegger Nature Park, it says Emmenegger Nature Park, dedicated to acquisition of nature. If you look at the registry, National Registry of Historic Places, it's Emmenegger Nature Park is part of the Edwin estate that's listed in there. Also, of all the mailings that go out from the Parks Department listed as Emmenegger Nature Park, so we probably need to make that word change in the ordinance. And that's really all I had to say about that. And that the word nature there can be important. It's, the park is unique compared to the other parks, and it's probably the only city or owned nature park in the state of Missouri. And if you look at Powder Valley, they also have nature in their title too. They're a conservation nature center, along with 5 other sites around the state that belong to the Conservation Department. Most of their other areas are just conservation areas, so there is a difference there. So if you make that change, I think everybody will be happy. Thank you.
Thank you.
George Stock.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. For the record, my name is George Stock. I'm not a student. That ended in 1985, 40 years ago. I'm a registered professional engineer. Our entire team is registered professionals. So I do take exceptions to comments that are made. That just, constructive criticism is wonderful. We got a lot of constructive input from this council about a month ago. What did we do? We went back with our professionals, our professional architects, our team, and a great developer who's under contract, TriStar, Matt Siegel. And we listened to what you said with regards to the building, the design, the importance of this corner. And maybe it was underestimated 2 years ago when this project was approved in 2023. But generally, the project complies with the ordinances, the comprehensive plan, and the guidance set forth. There was one exception. It had along the east property line, and we were trying to accommodate the homeowners association and their desire to have an exception on retaining a fence, a wall, and accommodating a sidewalk. We are totally neutral on that side of the property. We have an agreement with the homeowners association to enhance landscaping, place landscaping on the east side of the property line. In addition, we're planting 25 street trees as part of this project. Way more trees than just the 25 within the site and along the east property line. But what we did, and we went back to the architect, unfortunately, he's not here today, but I'm just trying to defend him. He has done his best to look at the character of the neighborhood, the history of the site, and redesign this building in order to be able to accommodate the desire. Not everybody's going to be happy. Hopefully the majority of the people are happy. Architecture is somewhat subjective. You have an architectural review board. We will go before that board. But what we tried to do is put this project in context of the neighborhood and the desire of the city. I'm here to answer any questions when this matter comes up. Again, Resolution 89-2025. David, I don't know the sequence of the yellow cards, but it might be good if Matt Siegel with TriStar were able to speak right after me, since we're on the subject as the petitioner. That's all I have, and available for questions later. Thank you.
Thank you.
He's actually the next guard, Matt Siegel.
What Russ is passing down is you guys have all seen over the last couple of weeks, but I figured it's also nice just to see it in nice pictures and letters and such. Matt Siegel with TriStar Properties. Since our last meeting, I told you at that meeting I would come back. Our goal is to wow you. We are a completely local company. Every dollar that we put in into this project, all of our investors, every one of them is a St. Louisan. We're not bringing any money in from out of town. It's a local investment group, local money. And I do take exception to say that I won't be here in the long run. My grandkids will own this apartment one day with our investment group. We are in it for the long haul. We realize this is a special corner, and we take a lot of pride in having the potential to even develop it. So just real quickly, as you're aware, we worked with staff and the adjacent HOA. I forwarded to you to Ms. Aish, and to forward out to the council, the agreement that we came to with the HOA. Mr. Phil Hutchinson was great to work with. We went back and forth. We agreed to every item they had that they offered us, except for one, which was the trash dumpster. It's been that location. We'll screen it to the best of our ability. And then additionally, we agreed outside of our ordinance to do off-site tree plantings for more trees beyond the 25 to do off-site plantings on the HOA ground to be a good neighbor. So we came to an agreement with them, which you have that letter. Additionally, architecturally speaking, we listen to you. The stone that you see on the whole first floor, the stone, all that stone is reminiscent of the First Presbyterian Church's stone right next door. So that all incorporates the historic church. Additionally, the brick was taken from pictures that were depicted at Pittman School. Speaking of Pittman School, we're committed to naming this apartment complex after Pittman School, Pittman Place, Pittman Park, something of that sort. So I think that's important. The roof line, the cornices are all depicted from Pittman School and other historic structures. Additionally, Adams Road and Kirkwood Road, you have a depiction from the original Kirkwood City Hall, so the storefronts. This whole design is to pay homage to Kirkwood and the great historic community that you are. Lastly, placard. We've talked offline with Mr. Hutchinson and the HOA on our property line next to the fence. I've done this on other developments. We're willing to, on our dime, put a placard up and work in conjunction with the Historic Commission or Landmarks Preservation to have a dedication to Pittman School there for the long haul. We're flexible. We're here to work with you. Had great dialogue. Hopefully, if you guys would like to entertain dialogue down the road, I'm happy to come back up, talk about either design, whether it's the Adams Road or the townhouse type design. Thanks.
you.
Art McDonald.
Greetings and thank you for your service, all of you. I really appreciate it, as you well know. I'm here at 598 North Taylor, excuse me. I encourage you to have a yes vote on the resolution 89-2025 on the Commerce Bank site tonight. I think it's going to be a wonderful addition to our community, and I like the James. I think it really, some people may not like its book cover, but what it has given to this community is tremendous. Just think of the increased property tax that comes to our school district because of the James. Just think of the money that Kirkwood gets because of that. The more property tax to Kirkwood. They buy Kirkwood Water, they buy Kirkwood Electric. There's 120 people there. It's full. So it's full because people they want to live there. And I think there's been some expression about that. There's a shortage of this kind of living environment, and people want to live in Kirkwood, as you well know, and we want them to live here, and we want them to spend their money in Kirkwood. So I think it's, the James has a fabulous restaurant, as you well know, and the UMB Bank is moved back in, so you haven't lost it. And what was there before, the UMB Bank building, was really not contributing to Kirkwood in a lot of ways. And they knew that, and so that's why they encouraged that development. And I think what's being proposed for the Commerce Bank site is going to be the same thing. And you're going to be, I was excited to hear about what they're planning for the change of the look of the building. And I am certainly glad that they're going to try to call it Pittman Place. I think that's really cool. So I hope you vote yes tonight, because I think you really have an opportunity here to make a big difference from Kirkwood. I voted for Station Plaza. I would have voted for the James if I'd been on the council. And it's a chance for you to help Kirkwood continue to grow, and through density, help all of our businesses and our sales tax, which the sales tax makes a great difference in your budget. And so Thank you very much, and thank you for listening to tonight, and thanks again for your service. Good to see you all. Thanks.
Thank you.
John Postel.
Hi, folks. Thanks for the opportunity to talk. My name is John Postel, been in Kirkwood 27 or so years. And I didn't come to talk about this, but I'm throwing it out real quickly. We lived in a house on Cleveland, just north of Essex, for 10 good years, an 1898 house, and it had a gravel driveway. And it was fine. So if people are worried, but I was also told at that time, it might be not true, that you couldn't do a gravel driveway anymore. And it's like, come on, a simple solution. I don't know. So anyway, my main point though is regarding the proposed development, the proposed apartment. And Art, you're the first person, and I know you well and respect you very much. First person I've heard say anything positive about the James. It's a big box. It's too tall. It's too imposing. And I'm afraid that this other development will be the same. It's too much. You know, all we need is one on the other side of the street, and then we'll have Kirkwood Canyon. And it's not what Kirkwood's about. The fabric of this town is community and a small town hominess. It's not Clayton, as someone else mentioned, and that's where we're going. And I don't think it's I don't think it's where the community wants to land. I think we want to keep the ambiance that we have. And I mean, these are not bad buildings, just bad locations. Put them someplace else. That's cool. But they're ugly. And they need to not be on Kirkwood Road. Now, one other thing, as far as the density piece goes, ADUs, I'm all in favor of. It's a complex approach, but it's very doable. And lastly, I haven't ever heard or seen around Kirkwood a discussion of triple deckers. You see them all over. I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin. I spent a lot of my childhood in a triple decker, and they're affordable because it's the same units on top, 3 stacked on top of each other, and they're the plumbing is all in the same place. They're easy, they're reasonably affordable to build. Probably have to work with the ADA element of it that wasn't in place years ago. But other than that, I think triple deckers can be very tasteful and cool. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joe Weinrich.
David.
Amy Nash.
Good evening. Amy Nash. I am a resident. I live at 1732 West Adams. And I am here, I think, in the minority in favor of the 300 North Kirkwood Road project. So Kirkwood is a special community and has always been a place where people want to stay connected, where kids grow up hoping they can read. Where kids grow up hoping they can return, and parents hope to remain close to their families. Based on the comments at other meetings and even here tonight, it's obvious that this community values preserving the Kirkwoody feel, but not just in the way our buildings look, but in the sense of connection, strong neighborhoods, and quality of life that draws people back here for generations. That's what we need to protect as we grow. Affordability in Kirkwood means creating housing that fits our values and keeps this place where families, young adults, and retirees all can live, not just those at the highest income levels. Our housing choices in Kirkwood are limited, mostly single-family homes that are out of reach for many. Adding apartments expands the ladder of opportunity, whether for young adults starting out, families not ready to buy, or seniors looking to downsize. It's not about cheap housing, it's about making sure people who want to call Kirkwood home have a place to do so. This project also aligns with Kirkwood's comprehensive plan, which calls for housing variety and inclusivity. These 60 units advance that vision directly and provide options that we're missing, especially downtown. I know concerns come up about traffic, parking, and character. These concerns always come up and they are legit. But traffic and parking can be managed, and this development does include structured parking and other accommodations for entering and exiting the project. And as for character, this isn't about lowering standards, it's about raising them by building housing that reflects Kirkwood's traditional design while strengthening our long-term vitality. There's also a clear economic benefit to this project. 60 new households strengthen our tax base, helping fund city services without raising taxes on current residents. That's very important. More residents mean more customers for local businesses and a livelier and safer downtown. This is economic development through housing. Most importantly, I feel this is about people. Without projects like this, we're telling our kids, our parents, our neighbors, people who work here, who teach here, that there's no place for them in Kirkwood, and that's not who we are. Kirkwood has always been a welcoming, community-minded city, and this project gives us a chance to live up to those values. And I did want to say that I think that the typical pushback that we got for this project resulted in some pretty nice accommodations that they just talked about today. So I thought that was great also. And that's
Thank
it.
you.
Gwen Wallman.
Hi again. I wasn't going to speak on this tonight, but well, here I am again. I just want to say I agree with the first speaker and with John Postel here. And I urge you, please vote no on the Commerce Bank site design. As some of you know, I'm an architect's daughter, and I very much agree with the person who said that this is really a premier site. This is Kirkwood. This represents us. It may be our most visible site. The design I saw, even updated, is terrible. It's charmless, no creativity, it's boring, no imagination, nothing the least bit distinctive about it. It's just a flat facade, maybe with balconies pasted on. I can't even, it's really kind of shocking, actually. Kirkwood deserves better. I don't know one person who actually likes it except maybe Art. Art likes everything. He's such a sweetie. Well, anyway, I'm convinced more people would oppose this, but they've already read that it's hopeless. Council must approve that you're bound by, I think it was Swoboda era ordinances that tie your hands and force your approval to accept certain development that checks all the boxes. And I'm wondering, what can we do to give control back to you, our elected city representatives, and so that we don't get forced into things like this in the future? Anyway, thank you for listening, and please vote no. Thanks.
Thank you.
Frank Flukie.
Good evening, council and members. Thank you for this opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Frank Flukie. I live at 1714 Black Twig Lane. I'm here to speak primarily. I wasn't originally going to speak. This is my first council meeting. But the stormwater mitigation is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. So we bought our house about this time last year, moved in, and within a month, stormwater backed up and flooded our basement. So I'm entirely in favor of the stormwater mitigation. However, I'm now on the other side of that. We are adding an addition, and that's when I learned about stormwater mitigation. And Jennifer has been incredibly helpful, going above and beyond to help me work through this process. So I am in favor of it. I think it's a good idea. Like I said, I was a victim of the stormwater. We had a huge rainstorm about this time last year. So I just have two comments, really. We inadvertently hired an engineering company. Actually, our architect recommended it, and we weren't even sure because we had so many engineering companies coming and going what it was for until it was all said and done. And the first comment I had is that the 25% impervious area limit over which you have to do this construction, I think is a bit arbitrary because it's just a percentage. And as a real life example, there's a home in my neighborhood that's a corner lot. So big area, they had construction done, and this is long before we moved in. And the construction comes right out towards our property, right up fairly close, not, within 20 feet of our property line. And then it's a straight slope down right into our property. Now, we don't get water from them as far as I know, but we certainly could because a heavy rain would have a lot of water coming right down that hill, right into our property. But no mitigation required at all because it's a giant corner lot and most of the yard is in the front. So I'm just saying that I think that's it's not a very fair, just the strict percentage. I think you almost have to look at where the addition is being built and determine whether in that particular place it's going to cause more problems, even if they live on a giant lot. So that's just one. I think that's a little bit unfair. And the second thing is just the complexity of the rules. And I did finally get around to reading all the manuals and everything and all the requirements and understanding what we needed to do and actually kind of end up redesigning rain gardens for our addition, which we are in the process of doing. But my personal opinion is that any new development should just require mitigation. It doesn't matter how big your lot is or how small your lot is or what you're doing. It's just a simple hard and fast rule. Everybody does mitigation. And that would simplify things a little bit because then it's just a matter of then how much mitigation you have to do and not whether or not you have to do it. And if everybody had to do it, maybe it would be more well-known and more, more people who are getting into construction or planning to do something would just know right off the top, well, yeah, we got to do some mitigation. So I just think that would simplify things a little bit. Switching gears, that's my comment. Oh, shit, I don't have time to switch gears. Well, I'll come back next meeting. Thank you so much.
Look at me. Thank you.
Mayor and council, there are no additional requests for comment at this time.
We will now move to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions or concerns, comments about the consent agenda? All those in favor of approval of consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Consent agenda passes. We'll move into unfinished business. Bill 11092.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of the transfer of real property commonly known as Possum Woods Conservation Area to be designated and maintained by the city as parkland associated with Acre Park and authorizing and directing the mayor to execute all documents necessary to complete the transfer.
Thank you. Okay, are there any? Okay. Are there any questions or comments on Bill 11092? Mr. McLean.
Well, the same thing Mr. Zimmer is going to say. Based upon the previous comments, should we amend this for Acre?
Would you like to make a motion?
Motion that we amend Bill 11092, so it's Acre Nature Park.
Okay. Yes. Okay. There's a motion on the floor to change the name. Is there any discussion? Questions, concerns? No.
I'm just assuming that the Possum Woods Conservation Area is titled correctly.
Mhm. We believe it is until somebody comes and says it isn't.
Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Opposed, nay. The motion carries. Okay, now back to the bill is amended. Are there any questions or comments on the bill as amended? Okay, all in favor? Okay, sorry, final roll call, please.
Mayor Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Jack Sadek,
Yes.
Councilmember Litzo.
Yes.
Councilmember McLean, Councilmember Reinecker.
Yes.
Councilmember Schaefer.
Yes.
The bill has passed final reading. Glad Alan came to let us know about that name. We'll now move into new business, Resolution 8820.
Bill.
Oh, sorry. We're Bill 11093.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is an ordinance amending Kirkwood Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, Article 8, Section 14-394O, Schedule D, limited parking by allowing parking on the south side of West Jewel in the 500 and 600 blocks.
Are there any questions or comments on Bill 11093?
Just have a comment. I don't know if all you saw in the Kirkwood Webster Times, the Webster Kirkwood Times, that Webster Groves has a process by which residents can get residential parking permits. And so they have a traffic advisory commission that's exploring it for the past several years. They have a program in place, they're updating. So again, as we have these challenges in these neighborhoods, especially similar to what we see around some of the schools, the high school especially, I know there was a lot of resistance for looking at parking permits residential, but we do have a neighbor who is, has had it in place for years and is updating there. So just so that in the future, we don't totally discount this.
Any other comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Mayor Gibbons?
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer?
Yes.
Councilmember Jack Sadek?
No.
Councilmember Lizzo?
Yes.
Councilmember McLean?
Yes.
Councilmember Reinecker?
Nope.
Councilmember Schaefer?
Yes.
All righty. The bill has passed final reading. We'll now move to new business, Resolution 88, 2025.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution accepting the bid of Sunrise Oilfield Supply in the amount of $15,417 for the purchase of 15 kV 350 MCM cable for the electric department and authorizing and directing the Director of Procurement to issue a purchase order.
Do I have a motion and a second to accept Resolution 88, 2025?
Motion. Second.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions?
Comment.
Yes.
I talked to the director, our electrical director about this specifically, and this is to finish out part of the substation at Van Buren. There's a transformer that's not connected to the grid yet, and so this is to fill that out. That's what I was told.
Thank you. Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Mayor Gibbons?
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer?
Yes.
Councilmember Jack Sadek?
Yes.
Councilmember Lizzo?
Yes.
Councilmember McLean?
Yes.
Councilmember Reinecker? Councilmember Schaefer?
Yes.
The resolution has passed. Resolution 89, 2025.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution approving the development plan for a mixed-use project in the B2 zoning district located on the property known as 300 North Kirkwood Road, subject to certain conditions.
Thank you. Do I have a motion and a second to accept Resolution 89, 2025 as read?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Are there questions, comments? Actually, let me start. I personally think you heard us. We asked for something that was more in keeping with Kirkwood, and I know they looked at Pittman School and the fact that they're interested in calling it Pittman, maybe Pittman Elementary even? Would fit.
I don't think they said
that. They didn't quite say that, but
No.
I do have one concern, and that is this corner and making that a gym for the public to be able to belong to. And we need this to be an active, busy space. And I would like to cancel Roberts, or cancel Robert? I would like suspend the rules so that Mr. Siegel can come up and let's chat about that. Oh, a motion and a second to, okay.
Suspend Robert's rules.
Then vote?
Yep.
Okay.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion. Okay, passed. So now, come up and just chat a little bit about, is there somewhere else that your gym could go, and could this become more active and?
Sure. We put it there because we feel it makes sense. I will be happy to move it to another location. You know, when you have a gym in a building like this, and I understand the Y is right there, and we have Lifetime Fitness up the street. I realize that's not in Kirkwood, but if you have country clubs nearby, you have a lot of fitness alternatives. The gym in a facility, you know, a 60-unit apartment, is, you know, it's a step up from a hotel type gym, but it's also not Lifetime Fitness either. So, you know, I can find another place for it. And I'm sure you wouldn't be upset if I said then you would reclaim somewhere around 750 to 1,000 square feet of retail. And you know, it will be retail. So therefore it would be, whether, we're trying to attract, we've talked about it in our last meeting. It's not a restaurant location like Napoli because, you can't park it. And we know that has been a hot button item. And so we're trying to stay away from that. But, you know, there's nothing to say it can't be, a grab and go type place, like just as an example, like a gourmet to go, something like, but doesn't have high parking counts, like a Fit Flavors, things like that, we know a lot of people are health conscious, but they want on go type of things. So, you know, in that, just as an example, that 1,000 square feet could accommodate that type of use. We're here to be flexible and work with you. So if that's, an accommodation you'd like us to make, I'm happy to do it.
I want to just make note that our executive director of our special business district is back there smiling and nodding. So you've made her very happy.
Like we said, you know, adding residents adds the vibrancy, helps the retail sales tax. It's not a complicated formula, but it's also not, you know, getting mom and pop stores filled up. It's a challenge these days. So getting the density helps.
Does anyone else would like to address Mr. Siegel? Okay.
So I want to appreciate that you took the comments from the condos next door to you about the planting of some kind of green space in between there. We're removing the sidewalk so you have more space that you can plant more things in there, and just generally listening to the neighbors who really are going to get to see the back of everything there. So I appreciate that very much.
No, and we want to be a good neighbor. And like I said, we're neutral on and they are aware on if you want to remove the sidewalk, we'll do more plantings on our side. If you put the sidewalk in, they'll get more planting. So it's for us, it's a win-win either way.
Win-win. Yes. So thank you.
You're
for
welcome.
listening.
No, it's our pleasure.
No. There was a comment that I received from someone that I think we all did on council here. That they like the new architecture, specifically option 2, but only if the white stone around the new balcony sections reverts back to the old red brick on the 2-story band along Adams.
I
don't know if
read
you saw
that.
or not.
Yeah.
And I'm not an architect and don't pretend to be one, but I wonder if you like.
So, I'm not an architect either. I know you have an ARB. I would say if you chose to go that direction, with the 4 direct entry units, which I understand, after talking to staff, you know, it would send us back to planning commission, text amendment, we'd come back through and do everything over again. You know, it goes to ARB. That's easy, minor swap, you know, stone for brick, that's easy. And if ARB said that that's what they want, we would do it. Or if they want to stick with the plan. I mean, I can tell you as an example, the blue doors that are there, those wouldn't be blue doors unless ARB says it. I did that because I wanted them to stand out so you could see them versus if I made them a neutral hardwood like the dais, it'd be hard to see them, but that might be the most natural color. So, yeah, I said, our theme is we're flexible.
And I appreciate you coming back with these. I know there's a lot of residents that don't like these, and I understand why they don't like it. And, you know, I would prefer to maybe have a park there, or, you know, maybe a little fourplex with a lot more green space, but there's only so much we can do, so I really appreciate the effort you're putting in.
I think one comment, and it's only because I remember from last meeting, it was on this side of the dais, and it might have been from you, Mr. McLean. The or it was Mr. Reiner, one of the two, about the Adams Road, if it's a garage, not liking all the windows. So one of the things I told my architect that I wanted to guarantee that we would do is that glass would be like a smoked one-way glass. Not, it wouldn't be like you're going to a nightclub, dark tinted black, but it wouldn't be visible. It would be one way, so you couldn't see cars from Adams. It would be more of a smoke type of look. And so I just want to, you can't pick up on that unless you just see it. So I just want to point that out because I know it was a comment from last time. So if you go with if you prefer the design as we've submitted, that doesn't require us to go through text amendment and all that stuff, that would be an architectural detail that we would do.
Yeah, it mirrors Royal Bank. That's right across the street.
Correct. Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I see the concept too with the 4 balconies, or maybe there's some above it too. I don't know. I can't.
It's just 4 balconies.
4 balconies.
Mhm.
Is that all the balconies in the entire complex?
No, there's some on the interior.
Okay.
Balconies are great, but you have HOA indentures for an apartment. They can get junked up. If Christmas lights are great, but Christmas lights from Thanksgiving to January 1st are appropriate, but not through, just our editorializing. So we try to keep balconies on the interiors, not as much on the exteriors for those purposes, because you want them to be useful. Sometimes they're just an architectural feature, but for us, we try to make them useful, but you also want them, they're,
Can you make them wide enough that you don't have to put 2 chairs looking the same way? Like knee to knee?
so the 4 that you see there are substantial. Those are, I mean, those units, the way they are designed is they would be the nicest 4 units of any rental in downtown Kirkwood. And they would get a dollar amount that probably exceeds most $1 million homes mortgages. Just those 4 units.
Will there be grilling on those balconies?
No. Nope. That's a big no.
Nope.
Sal?
Well, I also appreciate that you have tweaked the elevations, the renderings, and I think they're positive changes with the recessed entryways, and I mean, considering all the context of the downtown Kirkwood and buildings that are special to us. I'm glad you clarified, because the way on concept 2, I was thinking that we did have stacked balconies. We had the Juliets and then something up above, some sort of deck thing, but that's those column things that are projecting skyward are just,
I don't have it in front of me.
but this still is, I mean, you were just wanting general sort of consensus on which path to go, possibly adding the residential on East Adams versus the faux sod, as I call it, that hides the parking behind it, correct?
Right.
And
I
there
mean,
are
so,
additional tweaks.
so
I mean,
yeah, so my understanding is you have a ordinance in front of you, a application that 100% complies with your comprehensive plan, and we aren't asking for any variances except for the sidewalk if you so choose. And we're proud of that. We think that, it's nice to bring a project and I don't need a laundry list of exceptions. So if you so choose to vote on that tonight, that's your prerogative, and we'd be thrilled to be one step closer to an approved project. If you choose to go with version 2, which came about from this side of the dais, making some suggestions of, hey, maybe, you could do some townhomes or some direct that just dialogue is what brought that about. We're open to it. Obviously that would delay me from getting approval, but I think everyone would be doing it in good faith, sending us back to the planning commission so the text amendment could happen. We would be concurrently running behind it, and we'd come back through the process. And like I said, I think in good faith, it would be a happy outcome and we're just delaying things, I'm open to either. I wish you guys could just do a variance right now, and if that's what you want, and we do it, but I understand there's rules and ordinances and,
Process.
yeah, there's processes, so, we're flexible.
Well, anyway, thank you for making the tweaks on version 1 and version 2. So as far as the comments that you received from the HOA, there is one that I'm good with all 3 of them. But I do take exception to the suggestion that the sidewalk along the eastern boundary next to the historic wall or whatever, I would actually prefer that to remain. A site, we've got the existing sidewalk on the Commerce site. We've got a plan that's been in place from actually 2021, and when we did our downtown master plan, I've got copies here of the revised May 2021 plan, if council members would like to see what I'm talking about. But it called for a sidewalk along that boundary. We've got a partial already at the Commerce site, and I would like to see it continued as drawn originally on your site plan. It would certainly, I mean, it's on our framework plan. We've been talking about it for years. It would also provide a benefit for pedestrians, and exceeds the minimum requirement and warrants modification. So that is one thing that I think would be an important feature to maintain in this site plan, a 5-foot sidewalk, and that would be adjacent to the rock wall that you've promised to consider rebuilding, rehabbing, whatever. And then you would have the chain link fence that's black, painted black, and then you would have the row of green buffer that you've promised to plant for
Mhm. On their side.
on their side of the fence for the homeowners association. So I really appreciate all of the concessions that you made. I think you've tried to work with the city, with our code, with the HOA to try and as much as possible. And I really appreciate the Pittman place.
And
Or
I
reference
I want you to hold us too, because I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
The placard that we would, if you guys want us to put near that fence in our property line, and we'll work with your historic or landmarks group to, we'll create the shadow box or the placard or whatever, and we'll pay for it, and they can, obviously tell us what they want on it. Happy to do it.
Sure.
'Cause I think
that's
it's,
a nice touch too. That, I mean, I grew up in Afton, if you want to know where I went to school. But that elementary school in that location is very near and dear to the hearts of many people who grew up in Kirkwood. So anyway, those are my comments that I would really very much prefer that we retain the sidewalk, but I'm fine with speed bumps, and the landscape screening and fence painting, all of the other stuff. Just retain the sidewalk that is shown on the site plan as it is now.
And we were transparent with the condo association that while I will agree to and support them, I also remain neutral in that our application, if council chooses to keep with the sidewalk and the plan that was submitted, we're completely okay with that as well.
Okay, thank you. I have a question about the sidewalk. Are you planting, by eliminating the sidewalk, are you doing more planting?
We will do, so the planting that I agreed to do is actually more on the, would be the northeast portion of the site. But because there already are trees along where that sidewalk is, but I also told them I'm happy to do, we can fill it in, working with them and the city arborist and our landscape architect. If they want it filled in, I'll screen it as much as they want it to be screened. So it's, happy to do it. So as much or as little as the neighbors want or the city wants, on the record, you can plant a tree every 2 feet if they allow it. I know it won't, but we're happy to do as much or as little as they like.
Okay, are there any other questions that anyone has of?
Just want to make a comment, and again, I appreciate your willingness to really, sit through a couple of these meetings and hear some things and try to incorporate some of those comments. We do recognize, it is, you're not asking for variances, it fits into what's allowed there. But I do think, as you've heard, the challenge for us is how much can we continue to build these high-density structures. And my concern for the downtown Kirkwood is, are we pretty much going to go to having a lot of apartments in no business district anymore? So how do we balance a downtown Kirkwood for not just those that are right there, but also for the whole community? So what you're doing, you've worked nicely with this council. You are doing a project that fits in with plans, but the challenge for us as city council will be going forward from here. What we want that balance to be in the special business district that supports both those who live close by, but those that might live on the outskirts and still want to come down and enjoy downtown. So, and we also heard from the stormwater, the stress on some of our infrastructure. It is something that we as a city have to also address. Again, not necessarily your issue, but recognize that we have challenges in our stormwater and our, roads and water mains and police and fire. So, we got to find that balance. I'm not sure how we'll do it, but again, you've worked nicely with us. I appreciate that.
I appreciate the collaboration.
Councilmember Schaefer?
So Nancy brings up a good point about the sidewalk. When I met with the condo association, our owner that's right next to it, I was unaware that the condo association had given you permission to go on the other side of the fence and be able to plant on that side. If that's something that's available that can be done to mitigate the noise from there, then I'm all in favor of leaving the sidewalk in place.
In all fairness, your meeting with the homeowner,
Yes.
I believe happened before my agreement with the HOA board occurred. So if you had the information, you might have had a different opinion. But yeah,
Right.
we're gonna do right by them to the best of our ability.
Yeah, I understand that, but I just wanted that on the record that I'm fine with sidewalk as long as you're willing to go onto basically their property and put it, okay, I'm good. And then a couple of speed bumps through there too.
Yep, and I did say this.
Bumps.
Yeah, the speed bumps, speed tables. I told them that we are happy to do that. Obviously, that's in accordance with Kirkwood traffic streets engineer, city engineers, because residents and there's a lot that go into where speed bumps are in place. So we will support it, but it's not my job to decide where those go.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'd like to ask Jonathan Raish to come up now and explain what needs to happen here.
Okay. So the proposal before you, I think the big question, I suppose, is whether or not the council wants to have residential on the first floor on the Adams Avenue frontage. If that's the case, as the petitioner alluded to, it's currently prohibited by our code. So you all would need to give them that direction and send them back to the Planning and Zoning Commission so that they could revise their package, their plan submittal. And then that would go through that, and you would give, if that's the case, you would give direction to staff to draft a text amendment to accommodate that. And we would bring those to the Planning and Zoning Commission simultaneously. So that's the big question. And then after that, I think the other items, as far as landscaping, there are amendments that could be made. And staff's recommendation would be that those can be, if the project stays without the first floor residential, you could make those amendments tonight and have them reflected as made a condition to be included in their final site plan, which will come back before you all, right? So you will see, for instance, if you want to require an off-site landscape buffer to be planted by the developer and maintained by the adjacent property owners, you could do that as a condition to be added on the final site plan. They would make that change, go through P and Z with that, and come back before you. So the minor changes could happen in that respect. Is that what you're asking me to?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was asking. Yeah. I guess now we need to determine what people are interested in. Do we take? So I'll just open it for discussion between the two plans that we've looked at.
Well, the question is whether we have to change something if we wanted to allow for the four.
It has to go back to planning and zoning. If we want to do the,
I think they look great. I think they'd be neat. It's like a 3-story apartment too. Huh.
okay.
I'd like to see some steps there, but we talked about that. You said the elevation throws it off.
Steps going up.
It's flat. We could do a couple of steps.
Yeah, I'm in favor of the first floor units. That's fine. Throw it in, and, you know, I would defer to the HOA on the sidewalk issue and all those issues. Their backyard. I'd like to, if we can, advance this tonight. Caveat.
If you want the
Okay, I just
concept
want
to,
And council's telling me I can't, so that's fine.
So it just depends on if you want to require that they resubmit with the residential on the first floor, it has to go back to P and Z. If you are okay with the current application, which does not include the residential on the first floor, everything else that was discussed could be made via an amendment tonight and advanced. It's just that question of whether you all want residential or not on the first floor.
I think if the developer proposed that, that's probably what they want, so I would. It come back up.
yes, do I need to?
Yeah, break the rules again.
No, it's okay.
And obviously you have a city attorney who will maybe say no to this, but I will happily suggest it. Is it possible to approve the plan as submitted? And then instead of coming back with a final plan, I come back with an amended plan with the text amendment. Where I'm going with this, take the bird in hand and then submit an application to Jonathan with an amended plan with the units and then the text amendment, and we go through the same cycle, but at least I have a bird in hand.
Well, and then I guess the question is, if you did that, council, and it didn't go through, would everybody still move forward? So you would be committing to allow it without the residential on the first floor, which you'd have to be okay with that.
Oh, yeah, I would.
Yeah,
Is
we
it
want
clean to do it so that you know exactly where you stand and we do too? It's almost like we
Just a
need-
suggestion.
Good try,
Appreciate
good
it.
try.
Try.
The idea was you'll never see a final development plan without the Adams. It's just an insurance policy for me is how I'm looking at it.
Part of it for us is it does go to ARB. So, you know, the part that we're involved in, we really are trying to get as clean as we can get. And then you go to ARB anyway.
Good try.
I mean, I think we're all acting in good faith, so.
Enough she wouldn't be paying attention, so.
Councilmember Zimmer?
Yes, thank you. You know, I saw the plans 2 years ago, and 2 years ago, I mentioned to you, Mr. Stock, this was an important corner in Kirkwood. We need architectural features. You've listened this time, and you've given us something that's much improved over the last version, especially mirroring the brick to the church and honoring Pittman Place. I think that's great. I think the sidewalk and back should remain because people are going to be walking back there. whether there's a sidewalk there or not, there are going to be pedestrians going back there. It's for the safety of those pedestrians that a sidewalk should exist. That's the only reason I support that sidewalk is for safety. But I say we send this back to planning and zoning for option 2.
Okay. Any more comments? Okay, we need a motion and a second to
Motion.
send this back.
Second.
Okay. All right. And then
Motion.
Send it back to.
oh, to send it to the PNC.
PNC for
Yeah.
or-
What did she decide? Roll call?
Yes.
Hold on, let me write.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Hold on one second.
Doing it for her.
That's right.
I'm like at home.
Recommend on this one. And all in favor is fine on this because it's not approving something final. Okay, I think.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, the motion carries. So it will, thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Phil.
Yes, no?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
I
it.
do appreciate it.
It's all going, so nothing, it wasn't voted on. either.
That's what I think too.
We're not finished yet. We're now going to move to council reports. And Mr. McLean, I did want to let you know that the Missouri, well, but somebody is, Taylor's back there, he's listening. The Missouri Arbor Award of Excellence was given to the city of Kirkwood about a week ago. It's a award that's given by the Missouri Department of Conservation and the Missouri Community Forest Council to recognize communities, institutions, business individuals for making a significant contribution to community tree care and health in Missouri. And Josh from our electric department submitted the application in August on behalf of Kirkwood Electric and the city of Kirkwood, and we won the award. So it's downstairs as you go into the conference room, and it's a piece of wood that
Yep.
they put it on.
Looks
So
good.
very appropriate. Yeah, very appropriate. Okay. Any other council reports? No?
Well, actually, you have something?
Nope,
Paul? Go ahead.
Nope.
Since we've been talking about water so much tonight, I just happened to notice as I was browsing our website, a couple days ago that the latest Kirkwood Water Quality Report for 2024 is available on the website. You can get a copy of it mailed to you if you call in, to City Hall, but it's there on the website, so you can, get the latest water quality report. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Chief Administrative Officer report?
Yes, Mayor, the city did receive an application for temporary outdoor promotional variance from Patriot Builds STL, formerly known as Patriot Sunrooms, at 811 South Kirkwood Road to hold an open house on their parking lot on Saturday, October 11th, 2025, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. This request would require city council approval by a voice vote.
Okay. Are there any questions? Oh, a motion and a second. please. Okay.
Second.
Now, any questions? No. Okay, all those in favor, aye. Aye, opposed, nay. The motion carries.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Attorney General? Attorney General.
Attorney General.
Attorney-
It's been a long night, Mayor.
It's promotion there. Yeah.
City Clerk report.
Yes, Your Honor, I have one thing to report on. Scheduled upcoming public hearings, October 16th, we have two public hearings scheduled. One, a request for a major site plan for a new parking lot and a special use permit for outdoor storage from Murphy Company at 444 East Elliott Avenue. And two, a request for a zoning code text amendment pertaining to section 25-45K and related references on no impact home-based businesses. That's all I have.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Seeing no further business, our next regular scheduled meeting will be on Thursday, October 16th. This meeting is adjourned.